And now, I have the honor of presenting to you the first ever Psychology Field MVP Award. The winner is behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner! Thank you, wow, I'm so honored to be presented the first ever Psychology Field MVP Award. Thank you, thank you. Of course, you clearly earned it, sir. For those viewers tuning in live and aren't as familiar with your contributions to the field, would you care to explain what you think you've done to win this award tonight? Well, many of you may be surprised. I started as a young man with a passion for English. Well, at least that's what I studied in college. However, I have a very strong passion for learning, so I entered grad school for psychology. I'd like to give a big thank you to Edward Thorndike for his contribution to the field, because without him, my findings would never have had any basis. Eday's conclusion of the law of effect drove me to figuring out how I could manipulate behavior by creating different outcomes. I'd like to believe that I won this award tonight because I shaped the way we manipulate behavior today, which is something anyone and everyone can use every day. My Skinner box is really what started it all. I realized that when I put mice in a small box and gave them a sort of trigger that would release something desirable, such as food or water, they would eventually learn that pushing that trigger meant that they got the desirable thing. Thus, the idea of reinforcement was born. I figured out that when that mouse got the desirable thing, the food or the water, it would cause the mouse to repeat the action. This is called positive reinforcement. I also figured out that I could do nearly the opposite and it would lead to the same result. I could shock the mouse until it pushed the trigger, and once it did that, boom, stop shocking it. And after 5 minutes, start shocking it again, eventually teaching it to push the button. I could reinforce the action, but this kind I'd call negative reinforcement. Obviously, there's a little more to it than just that. I had to come up with what worked and what didn't. I used the fixed ratio schedule, variable ratio schedule, fixed interval schedule, and the variable interval schedule to operantly condition different behaviors. Now, I won't get too far into that, but I would like to say on top of making an organism do something, I also figured out that I could get an organism to stop doing something with a little technique I'm sure you're all familiar with: punishment. Now, I know no one likes getting punished, but it is one of the best ways to learn. If I want a mouse to stop biting its tail, boom, I shock it. And I do it a few times and then problem solved. Yes, I get it may be a little bit controversial because it is quite manipulative, but don't act like you haven't used my findings at some point in your life. I am the MVP after all. But Katie, I do have a question for you. Why did you pick me as the first ever Psychology Field MVP? Well, Skinner, for those very reasons exactly. I'm not trying to be manipulative, but when I say I want my kids to make their beds in the morning, I'll make sure I give them a sticker afterwards. And when I want them to stop hitting each other, I'll send them to their rooms, and eventually they'll learn to stop hitting each other. Although it is manipulative, you gave the world a better understanding of why punishment and reinforcement, things we use on a daily basis, work. I think your findings help me, my kids, and the rest of the world better understand why our parents would ground us, take toys away, or reward us on not so random occasions. Some of the other candidates, like Watson, really just did a special experiment with your own information, and psychologists like Spearman and Gardner just argued about how many different intelligences there were. Additionally, behavior is an important factor of life, explaining how and why we do things, or how to motivate oneself or those around them to do or not to do things. It's extremely important with social skills and just being successful in general. For me, the fact that your psychology contribution to the understanding of behavior is used on a daily basis and shows why I act the way I act gave me almost no choice but to name you psychology's first ever MVP. Once again, congratulations.